All right. We are starting our second episode of Shannon Reads 1099 Instructions. And a couple of people had messaged me privately yesterday and said it was great that we just jumped in and learned about box one. However, can we get some more basic information about the 1099? So we are going to start with the basics. All right, so on the IRS website, I'm just going to open another browser here. So if you go to irs.gov, and if you type in search and type in 1099, it brings you to this page. And the page that I am showing you today is about Form 1099 Miscellaneous for miscellaneous income. So basically, a 1099 needs to be filed for each person whom you have paid during the year, and the limits vary by what kind of payment that you sent them. So if you sent at least $10 in royalties or broker payments in lieu of dividend or tax-exempt interest, a 1099 needs to be sent. Also, if you've paid at least $600 in rent, prizes and awards, other income payments, medical and healthcare payments, crop insurance proceeds, cash payments for fish or other aquatic life you purchased from anyone engaged in the trade or business of catching fish. Generally, the cash paid from a notional principal contract to an individual partnership or estate. We're going to learn more about what that means right now because that one's a little fuzzy to me. We're going to learn more about that one later. It's a little fuzzy to me right now. Payments to an attorney or and any fishing boat proceeds. So, and in addition, you also use the Form 1099 Miscellaneous to report if you made direct sales of at least $5,000 of consumer products to a buyer for resale anywhere other than a permanent retail establishment. And we're going to go into that one in more detail later, but just know that this box, it's just a box that you check on the 1099 that says that you did more than $5,000 of sales to a non-permanent retail establishment. And what that means is, let me finish that other thought first. It's not only on the 1099 miscellaneous, it's also on the 1099 NEC. But if if you're in the business of manufacturing things, let's just say soap, for example, you sell soap to somebody who resells it on Etsy, you would need to send a 1099 to that person. If they have a pop-up or trade show that they sell it in, and they're buying your soap to sell to their customers, you need to send a 1099. If somebody has a brick and mortar boutique that is always at one fixed location, you do not need to send a 1099 for that same sale of soap because they're at a permanent retail establishment. And this is also where you can find recent developments and other forms that you might find useful. And one of the things that we're going to be talking about later in the series is the 1099K payment card and third-party network transactions. All right. Oh, I had 1099 miscellaneous open on both. Let's do 1099 NEC. This one's a little harder for me to find because it always wants to come up with the 1099 miscellaneous about. There we go. We specifically have to type that in and see how there's not a whole lot of information here about the Form 1099 NEC. There's just the instructions. And it says use Form 1099 NEC to report non-employee compensation. So what I am going to do now is stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to open up the PDF because I shared my screen differently so that you couldn't see everything. All right. Now we're on the 1099 NEC. This is actually the form, and it gives some information about the form, and we're just going to skip right ahead to the form. So I'm showing the 1099 NEC because this is going to be the form that most people are going to be filling out. And you'll notice that the 1099 NEC is now a third of the page, so they are not going to fit into the regular 1099 envelopes that everybody purchased last year because the form was the same size as the 1099 miscellaneous last year. So in this section, we put in the payer's name, street, city, basically their name and address here. And then you put in the taxpayer's TIN. So that would be the client who's the same as the payer, so the person who sent it. And then here we put in the recipient's name, and the address and everything is broken down for the recipient, and more stuff highlighted than I wanted it to. So we'll just ignore that. The account number is not necessary, so you don't have to fill that out. And the recipient's TIN, so their tax ID number, whether they gave the social security number or a federal EIN, you would use whatever they gave you on the W-9. And then box 1 here is for the non-employee compensation. Box 2 is that 5,000 or more in consumer product for resale. 3 we don't use, so they have grayed that out. 4 is for the federal income tax withheld. 5 is for the state income tax withhold and the state payers tax state number and state income. But most of the time, we're not going to be using anything in box 4, 5, 6, or 7 because there's very rarely a time when these are going to be filled out. One of the situations that jumps out at me is if a recipient did not fill out a W-9, or they filled it out and they left off information that you need, or it's not filled out correctly, then you would need to do what we call backup withholdings. And if there's backup withholdings, usually just the simple fact of not paying them their full invoice is going to be enough to get them to give you a W-9, and then you pay them the amount that you withheld, and it doesn't get sent into the state or to the IRS. However, if they still don't, then you would need to fill out. There's special forms that you have to fill out and send the money into the state and to the IRS. There's the only other time that I've ever had to do backup withholdings or pay withholdings into the IRS or the state is if the vendor requested it. Sorry, my cat was scratching. That's the beauty of going live. We don't get to edit that stuff out when the cat is destroying leather furniture. All right. But that is the end of this episode. Again, please, thank you for watching. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below. And we'll see you guys again tomorrow.